This happened to me about 6 years ago. I'm now 26 and I'm also married with 2 awesome kids. For some context, I'm a guy. This is what happened to me. I tried so many times to leave my ex-girlfriend, who we'll call Sarah. Whenever I would tell her that I wanted to see other people or that I should move out so that we have room to breathe, she would always go crazy and threaten to kill or cut herself or even drive her car off of a bridge. Mind you, where I live, there really isn't any bridges. Anyways, one day I run into my ex-girlfriend, who we'll call Rachel, at the mall. We ended on good terms, so we had actually talked like nothing happened. I had told Rachel about my situation with Sarah and how I really wasn't happy with her, and that I was really scared that she was gonna do something to harm herself. Rachel told me if I was really worried that much that I should let one of her family members know. So one day during work, I called her on my lunch and told her we should have dinner and talk. I also ran to our place and got all of my things and my dogs and moved everything back into my parents' house. I know, that's really messed up, but you have to understand that she was crazy, like really crazy. When we went to dinner, I told her in public that we should break up because I just wasn't happy anymore. And to be honest, I really hadn't been for a while. I mean, we had been together for about 3 years and I just wasn't happy. I had actually told her a few months after we started dating that I thought we were better off as friends. Anyways, so we break up and I go back to my parents' house, which they really weren't happy about because they knew how she was and they were really scared that she was going to do something to the house, or maybe even worse. They wanted me to go to a family member's house instead, but I mean really, who would actually take 2 big dogs and me on top of this giant load of drama? Later that night, when me and my dad are talking in the living room, all of a sudden we hear the sound of my truck alarm then go off and the sound of glass break. My heart sank. I just knew it was Sarah. I go outside, calmly trying to talk to her like an adult, and she just starts hitting me and spitting in my face, telling me I'm a piece of crap and all these other crazy things. I kid you not, I didn't touch her not one time, and I never raised my voice. I tried to get her to relax and at the same time telling my dad everything was okay. I can handle this, just go back inside. Finally, after about a half hour of just getting hit and yelled at, she eventually leaves, peeling out of my parents' neighborhood. Let's fast forward a few days later. I end up getting a visit from the cops asking where I was the night of this night and blah blah blah. You know how it goes. I tell them, but they don't believe me. They say that they want to take me downtown for some questions. Being the decent person that I am, I decide to go willingly. And well, what do you know? It turns out that she had filed a report on me saying that I beat her and also held her at gunpoint to get all of her money from her safe, and that I also wanted the PIN numbers to her card. For a while, I didn't even say anything because I was just so shocked at this point. I then tell the cops, "Look at me. I'm the one that has cuts and bruises here. She did that. I didn't do anything to her." Their response, "Sir, she's a lady. We have to hear her side on this, and we're gonna need to take some DNA samples from you." Well, I give them what they need, and long story short, I'm thrown in jail waiting for a hearing. About 2 weeks go by and the results came back. And you guessed it, totally negative. Also, I forgot to mention this, but me and Rachel ended up getting back together, but the harassment never stopped. Sarah made it impossible for me to move on with my life. For almost a year, I would get constant visits from cops asking why I was stalking her. Sarah even hired a private investigator to follow me and Rachel around. Every time I got a visit from a cop, I always had something backing me up on where I was whenever Sarah claimed I was stalking her. She had 4 restraining orders filed against me when I never even had anything to do with her. Finally, the judge was sick of it. I guess he had finally seen just how crazy she was because he didn't issue any more restraining orders after that. Me and Rachel almost didn't make it through this. Sarah made my life hell, but I'm really glad I ended things with her. So Sarah, wherever you are, I really hope you find the help you need, and I pray and hope no other man ever has to go through this.
I'm from India, and this is a true story of mine. I once lived in a small town on the Ganges riverbanks. In my adolescent age, one of my favorite hobbies was to roam in the whole village with my bicycle all day long. I was neither an imaginative type nor chicken boy. However, this incident completely changed my whole life. In my country, we consider the Ganges to a sacred river in Hinduism, and the water of River Ganges is frequently used in various rituals. My father was a priest in our village. One night he ordered me to bring some Ganges river water from our temple. As the river was nearby my house, I thought of going to the river to draw and bring water from the river itself instead of heading to the temple. While coming home with a full bucket of water in my hand, I suddenly noticed a woman leaning on a tree. The outside was almost getting dark, and she was wearing a hood on her head, so I couldn't see her face. Yet she seemed to be normal at first. Then she called me and requested to remove her hood. So I took one step forward. I walked toward her closer and closer. And as soon as I reached my hand to her hood, I suddenly noticed both her hands were nailed down to the tree. Being freaked out, I ran back to my house, letting a scream out, and my heart was throbbing frantically at that very moment. When I reached home, I told my dad about the lady I saw, and what he said to me eventually made my heart sink. Long ago, there was a woman in our town who was called a witch because of drinking the blood of young children. She got arrested by village people and ended up nailing on that very tree as a punishment. And from that day after she died, many people were found dead under that tree with marks of 2 sharp canine teeth, as though someone had sucked the blood from their bodies. Even now, I grew up as an adult. I get goosebumps just thinking about the woman I saw that night.